The Judas Cradle is a historical instrument of torture that dates back to the medieval period. It was a particularly gruesome and sadistic device employed to punish and extract confessions from individuals accused of crimes. The Judas Cradle consisted of a pyramid-shaped seat usually made of wood or metal with a pointed tip. The victim, typically naked, would be suspended above the pyramid, and the pointed tip would be inserted into the anus or vagina. The torturer would then slowly lower the victim onto the sharp point, causing intense pain and often leading to severe injuries or death. The intention behind this cruel device was not only to physically harm the victim, but also to psychologically break them, forcing confessions or compliance. This is 10 medieval torture devices. Number 9. The Spanish Donkey. The Spanish donkey, also known as the wooden horse or torture board, was a gruesome and sadistic device used for torture during the Spanish Inquisition and other historical periods. It was a vertically positioned wooden plank supported by two A-frame legs. The victim was forced to straddle the sharp apex of the wedge-shaped board with their full body weight pressing down on their genitals. The torturers could adjust the height of the board, making the device even more agonizing. As the victim endured excruciating pain and pressure, it often led to severe injuries, sometimes resulting in death. The Spanish donkey remains a dark symbol of the cruelty and barbarity associated with historical torture practices. Number 8. The Iron Maiden. The Iron Maiden is a notorious medieval torture device, though its historical existence and usage remain a subject of debate among historians. Described as a standing, coffin-shaped apparatus with inward-pointing spikes on the interior, the Iron Maiden was purportedly used to inflict torturous punishment. The victim would be placed inside the device, and upon closing the door, the strategically positioned spikes would penetrate the body, causing severe pain and potential fatal injuries. While some argue that the Iron Maiden was likely more a creation of myth and horror stories than a widely employed torture method, its gruesome concept has persisted in popular culture. Regardless of its historical authenticity, the Iron Maiden symbolizes cruel nature of medieval torture practices. Number 7. The Hanging Cage. The hanging cage is a historical torture device designed to inflict severe physical and psychological suffering on its victims. Consisting of a metal cage suspended from a gallows or other elevated structure, the victim would be placed inside the cage, which is then hoisted into the air. The exposed and confined space of the cage, combined with the public display, intensified the torment. The primary purpose of the hanging cage was to serve as a form of punishment and deterrence, often for crimes deemed severe by authorities. The condemned person would endure not only the discomfort of confinement but also the elements, as these cages were typically left outdoors. Number 6. The Brazen Bull. The Brazen Bull, also known as the Sicilian Bull, was a torture and execution device from ancient Greece. The Brazen Bull was designed in the shape of a hollow bronze bull with a door on one side for the victim. The condemned person would be placed inside the bull and a fire would be lit beneath it. As the metal heated up, the person inside would slowly roast to death. The design included tubes to convert the victim's screams into sounds resembling a bull's bellowing, adding a horrifying auditory element to the torture. Number 5. The Iron Chair. The iron chair was designed to cause extreme discomfort and pain to the victim. It typically consisted of a chair with numerous iron spikes or straps strategically placed on the seat, backrest, armrests, and leg rests. The victim would be forced to sit on the chair, and their body weight would press against the spikes, causing injuries and agony. The design of the iron chair aimed to maximize pain without immediately causing fatal injuries. The spikes were positioned to avoid vital organs, ensuring a prolonged and excruciating experience. The psychological impact of experiencing or even just witnessing such brutal methods of torture was significant. Number 4. The Pear of Anguish. The Pear of Anguish, also known as the choke pear, is a gruesome medieval torture device designed to cause extreme pain and mutilation. Shaped like a pear, the device consists of 4 leaves that are hinged together. When a screw mechanism at the top is turned, the leaves slowly expand, stretching the victim's orifice, typically the mouth, anus, or vagina, to an excruciating extent. The device was employed as both a method of punishment and a means of forcing confessions or extracting information. The Pear of Anguish reflects the brutal and sadistic nature of medieval torture practices, where devices were crafted to inflict intense suffering on victims. Number 3. The rack. The medieval torture rack was a notorious instrument of torture and interrogation during the Middle Ages. It consisted of a rectangular, often wooden frame with rollers at both ends. The victim was placed on the rack, with their ankles secured to one roller and their wrists to the other. The executioner would then turn the handle, causing the rollers to move and stretching the victim's body. As the rack was cranked, the person's joints, muscles, and bones would be pulled apart, resulting in excruciating pain. The severity of the torture could be controlled by adjusting the distance between the rollers. Sometimes, additional mechanisms were employed to dislocate joints or even break bones. Number 2. The wheel. The medieval torture wheel, also known as the breaking wheel or Catherine wheel, was a horrifying instrument of capital punishment and torture employed during the Middle Ages. Constructed like a wagon wheel, this ghastly device featured spokes to which the limbs of the condemned were bound. The brutal execution process involved using a heavy hammer to systematically break the victim's bones, starting with the limbs, and strategically aiming blows to cause excruciating pain without immediate death. Following the bone-breaking ordeal, the victim's body would be intricately woven through the wheel's spokes and raised for public display. Death, often a slow and agonizing process resulting from shock, blood loss, or infection, was accompanied by the gruesome spectacle of the broken and mangled body left exposed to the elements. Number 1. The pillory. The medieval pillory was a form of punishment and public humiliation used in Europe during the Middle Ages. It consisted of a wooden or metal framework with holes to secure the head and hands of the person being punished. The offender would be placed in the pillory, and their head and hands would be locked in the openings. This not only restrained the individual, but also exposed them to public view and ridicule. The primary purposes of the pillory were to shame and humiliate the wrongdoer, as well as to serve as a deterrent to others. Offenses that could lead to the pillory included various forms of misconduct, such as theft, fraud, slander, or public drunkenness. The duration of time spent in the pillory varied, and the public often pelted the person with objects during this period.
Thanks for watching. Comment the scariest torture method. Make sure to like, subscribe, and share to be entered into our giveaways.